You are empowered to do justice. You are empowered to ensure that this great system of ours works. Listen for a moment, will you, please? One of my favorite people in history is the great Frederick Douglass. He said shortly after the slaves were freed, quote, "In a composite nation like ours, as before the law, there should be no rich, no poor, no high, no low, no white, no black, but common country, common citizenship, equal rights, and a common destiny." This marvelous statement was made more than 100 years ago. It's an ideal worth striving for, and one that we still strive for. We haven't reached this goal yet, but certainly in this great country of ours, we're trying. From the very first orders issued by the LAPD so-called brass, they were more concerned with their own images, the publicity that might be generated from this case, than they were in doing professional police work. That's why this case has become such a hallmark, and that's why Mr. Simpson is the one on trial. But your verdict in this case will go far beyond the walls of Department 103, because your verdict talks about justice in America, and it talks about the police and whether they're above the law, and it looks at the police perhaps as though they haven't been looked at very recently. Remember, I told you, this is not for the naive, the faint of heart, or the timid. So it seems to us that the evidence shows that professional police work took a back seat right at the beginning. Untrained officers trampled. Remember, I used the words in the opening statement. They traipsed through the witness, through the evidence. And it was interesting because the prosecution didn't agree with that at the beginning, but later on in this trial, we heard Mr. Goldberg and talking to witnesses use my words, traipsing through the witnessing. That scene there at Bundy. He used our words because they understood. We knew what we were talking about. We were able to demonstrate it through the videos. They delayed unconscionably routine procedures in notifying the coroners. They didn't call the criminalists out on time. And yes, they allowed this investigation to be infected by a dishonest and corrupt detective. They did that in this case, and they may try to back away from it all they want, but that's very important, as you're going to see, to this case and the resolution of my client's innocence. Because of their bumbling, they ignored the obvious clues. They didn't pick up paper at the scene with prints on it. Because of their vanity, they very soon pretended to solve this crime, and we think implicated an innocent man. And they never, ever looked for anyone else. We think if they'd done their job as we have done, Mr. Simpson would have been eliminated early on. And so this case is not, let me say at the outset, is not about attacking the Los Angeles Police Department. We're not anti-police in making these statements. You're not anti-police. We all need the police. I just said we have so much crime in this country, we need the police. But what we need, and what we must demand, what all of us should have, are honest, effective, non-biased police officers. Who could demand less? Can any of you say that's not what we should have? Like the defining moment in this trial, the day Mr. Darden asked Mr. Simpson to try on those gloves, and the gloves didn't fit. Remember these words: if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And we're going to be talking about that throughout. So to summarize, if you take the witnesses who we presented, who stand unimpeached, and if you are left with dogs starting to bark at 10:35 or 10:40. 10:40, let's say. And we know from the most qualified individuals, Henry Lee and Michael Batten, this was a struggle that took from 5 to 15 minutes. It's already 10:55. And remember, the thumps were at 10:40 or 10:45. O.J. Simpson could not be guilty. He is then entitled to an acquittal. And we have talked to you, and you've heard from the court, and my colleagues talked to you about this whole idea of circumstantial evidence. I want to talk to you a little more about that now. We have shown you the incredible evidence that it would be impossible. O.J. could not, would not, did not commit these crimes. And where you have a circumstantial evidence case, this becomes very, very important. The prosecution then must disprove our timeline beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they don't, you must acquit.